Ever feel like you're just uh, drowning in documents, research papers, progress updates?
Oh, absolutely. Project proposals, the endless stream of professional emails.
Yeah, it's a lot. They all have a purpose. We know that. Communicating critical stuff for work.
Right, but sometimes figuring out how they're put together or even just how to read them effectively.
Or write them. That can feel completely overwhelming.
It's a fundamental challenge, isn't it? We rely on these things, but their complexity can be, well, a barrier.
Understanding their anatomy seems key.
That's it exactly, making sense of it all.
Absolutely. And that's precisely our mission in this deep dive today. We're drawing directly from the sources you shared
Yeah, these articles and guides on report writing, professional communication.
to really unpack the structure, the purpose behind these different essential formats
We'll break down things like feasibility reports, progress reports,
and those professional emails, which are often, underestimated.
definitely. And we'll look at key sections that pop up again and again in formal reports like research docs and proposals.
So the goal is to extract the core knowledge, reveal the logic.
And give you a shortcut, basically.
Yeah.
A way to navigate this crucial landscape more easily.
These sources seem pretty detailed on the components and the why behind them, so let's unpack this.
Where should we start?
How about with that big first question? Feasibility. Is this project even possible?
Good starting point.
Yeah.
A feasibility report is that deep, detailed analysis you do before you pour significant resources into something.
Right, before you commit.
Its whole point is to evaluate practicality, spot the risks, gauge the potential for success.
So it helps decision makers decide whether to go ahead.
Or maybe modify the plan, tweak it, or sometimes just walk away.
Why is this step so critical? Seems like a lot of upfront work.
Because jumping into a project that isn't feasible is just an incredibly expensive mistake waiting to happen.
Ah, okay.
This report minimizes risk, makes sure resources are used wisely, and checks that the investment is realistic, likely profitable, and actually lines up with the bigger goals.
It's like doing your homework thoroughly.
Exactly. Before you break ground, metaphorically or literally.
Okay, based on our sources, what are the essential pieces we'd expect to find in one? Where do they usually start?
Almost always with an executive summary. That's the critical high-level overview.
For the busy folks.
Precisely. It summarizes the key findings, the conclusions, the recommendations, so someone can grab the crucial info fast.
Right, without wading through potentially hundreds of pages. What's next after the summary?
Then you move into the introduction. This sets the stage.
Okay.
It outlines the project's core purpose, defines the problem it's solving, clarifies the scope, what's in, what's out.
And the intended outcomes.
Yes, the specific goals or objectives. It might also include the project's background, how the study itself was done, how it fits into existing plans, maybe even demand forecasts.
So you understand the why and the what, then what?
Then the report usually dives into analyzing the different ways you could actually do the project. That's the technical and commercial solution options analysis.
So exploring different approaches.
Exactly. Describing alternative technical solutions, maybe different engineering options for a bridge, or different software platforms for an IT system.
And they don't just list them, they evaluate them, right?
Crucially, yes.
Yeah.
Each option gets assessed against a whole range of criteria: technical feasibility, economic impact, financial stuff, legal requirements, social effects, environmental.
Wow, okay.
And you might see an initial economic cost-benefit analysis here using high-level cost estimates.
And then the report recommends one.
Yes, it lands on the recommended technical solution and describes that one in detail. Outline design, expected outputs, estimated costs, both initial capital costs, CapEx, and ongoing operational costs, OpEx.
That sounds like it leads straight into the project due diligence section.
Okay.
This sounds like a deep dive within our deep dive.
It really is. This is where you rigorously check if that recommended solution actually holds water under serious scrutiny.
Asking things like,
Can we legally do this? Can we do it at this specific site? What are the real risks involved? And critically, how will it be funded? Can people actually afford it?
so under legal aspects, what are they checking?
Everything from property rights and zoning laws, making sure you're even allowed to build there, to environmental regs, building codes, tax implications.
Even thinking ahead to contracts.
Yeah, likely project agreements, how disputes would be handled, ensuring you're on solid legal ground.
And site enablement. That sounds practical.
It is. It's the check on the physical location. Do we have the land? Is the value right? Is it actually available? Do people live there who need resettling?
Utilities, too, like power lines.
Yep, relocating utilities if needed. All the logistics of getting the physical space ready.
You mentioned economic and social cost-benefit analysis earlier. Does it pop up again here?
Often in more detail, yeah. Really identifying all the economic benefits and costs to society, not just the project owner.
And testing the numbers.
Sensitivity analysis, seeing how things hold up if assumptions change, plus looking at social impacts, community effects, maybe specific gender or youth considerations.
What about potential downsides, environmental issues, disasters?
Absolutely critical. This is where you see things like an environmental impact assessment or EIA, social risk assessments, checking vulnerability to climate change, natural disasters.
Identifying potential harm and how to lessen it.
Exactly. Maybe a preliminary environmental and social impact assessment, a PISA.
And the money side, financing, funding, revenue.
This is figuring out how it all gets paid for, both the upfront build, the CapEx, and the ongoing operations, OpEx.
Where's the money coming from?
Debt, grants, equity, what are the annual needs? If it makes money, like from user fees, is that enough? If not, where does the rest come from? Public payments, maybe?
Which links right into affordability analysis.
Right. If public money's involved, does it fit the budget? Do you need viability gap funding? If users pay, can they actually afford it? And are they willing to?
And you might explore different delivery models, like public-private partnerships.
That's the procurement options and PPP structure analysis, evaluating traditional public delivery versus various PPP setups.
How does that work?
Describing the private sector's potential role, responsibilities, and crucially, how risks get shared between the public and private partners.
How do they decide which model is best?
Based on clear criteria, which have to be justified in the report. Often things like value for money, affordability, the impact on government finances, fiscal impact, public sector borrowing, and even feedback from potential private partners.
And the report details the preferred choice.
Yeah, presents the evaluation and details the chosen approach, key risk allocation, how payments will work, maybe an indicative financing structure.
A lot of this sounds like it relies heavily on financial modeling.
It's kind of the engine driving a lot of the number crunching in the feasibility report.
How so?
It supports that cost-benefit analysis, helps figure out revenue needs and potential tariffs, evaluates affordability, determines financing requirements, and compares those procurement options based on value for money.
So it's not just a static thing, it's a tool used throughout.
Precisely. And it even gets used later, during implementation, maybe helping design payment mechanisms or acting as a shadow bid model. The report describes the model and its key outputs.
What about planning for things going wrong? Obstacles?
That's the job of the Project Risk Matrix, the PRM. It tries to quantify potential liabilities.
Like what kind of risks?
Construction delays, cost overruns, demand being lower than expected. For each risk, it estimates the probability, the impact often as a percentage of cost when it might happen, the potential cost in today's money, NPV.
And who bears that risk?
Yeah, how the risk and its cost are distributed, public versus private, and importantly, what mitigation steps are planned.
They even sketch out potential contract terms.
Sometimes, yeah. Might include PPP project agreements, term sheets, the key points that would form the basis of formal contracts later.
And tying it all together?
The project implementation schedule, an estimated timeline for the whole thing.
Wow, okay. That is incredibly thorough. To make it maybe a bit more concrete, let's use that hotel construction example from the sources. How would these pieces fit for something like that?
Okay, sure. Picture a developer wanting to build a new high-end hotel. The introduction would lay out the plan, build this modern hotel, target business and leisure guests, specific location, aiming to boost tourism, make money, create local jobs.
The resource requirements would list everything needed.
Right, that prime land, concrete, steel, maybe eco-friendly materials, architects, engineers, construction crews, and eventually the hotel staff, managers, cleaners, everyone.
Then technical feasibility. Can they actually build it there?
Yeah. Is the design viable on that site? Are utilities like water and power adequate? Does it meet safety codes, fire, earthquake? Can they put in that smart tech they want?
Financial feasibility, the money part.
Estimating the total cost, maybe that $50 million figure. Where is it coming from? Loans, investors, projecting revenues, that $15 million annual example, forecasting operating costs, figuring out the break-even point, maybe 5 years.
What about the market? Who are the guests?
Analyzing the target audience, business travelers, tourists, event planners, looking at competitors, other luxury hotels nearby. Is demand actually growing? And the marketing plan, digital ads, partnerships.
Operational feasibility, how will it actually run day to day?
Planning the management software, supply chains for food and linens, the staffing structure, the customer service approach. It's like 247 support.
Scheduling would map out the timeline.
Design phase, permit approvals, maybe 4-6 months. For those then construction, say 24 months. Interior work, staff training, adding up to maybe around 3 years total.
Legal and regulatory ticking all the boxes.
Ensuring compliance with zoning, getting all building permits, meeting health and safety codes, handling environmental stuff like waste management,
And the environmental and social aspects.
thinking about sustainable building, how it benefits the community jobs, local suppliers, but also potential negative impacts like traffic and how to manage that. Plus recycling, water conservation plans.
And finally, assumptions and constraints. What are they banking on? What could trip them up?
They might assume, say, tourism keeps growing, costs stay stable, permits come through on time, constraints could be unexpected permit delays, supply chain issues for materials, or maybe a market downturn hurting bookings.
So what's the big takeaway here? A feasibility report isn't just busy work.
Not at all. It's absolutely fundamental for making smart investment choices.
It's that essential first step.
To avoid potentially catastrophic mistakes, ensure the project is scrutinized from every angle, not just can you build it, but does it make sense financially, legally, environmentally, operationally? It really is the ultimate due diligence document.
Okay, let's shift gears. We've planned the project, now it's underway. Let's talk progress reports, keeping everyone in the loop.
Right. The basic function seems simple. Inform clients, supervisors, stakeholders about how a project is doing.
But our sources suggest their main function is often more strategic, maybe even persuasive.
That's a really key insight. While they present facts, the underlying goal is often reassurance.
Reassurance how?
Reassuring stakeholders that progress is being made, things are generally going smoothly, the deadline looks achievable, or if there are problems.
Then the report needs to explain why.
Exactly. And crucially, what's being done about them, it's managing expectations.
So it's more than just a status update. It's building confidence.
Definitely. They also serve other useful purposes, sharing early findings, giving stakeholders a chance to give feedback, providing early warning about potential issues.
So no nasty surprises later.
Hopefully not. And importantly, they force the project team itself to establish and stick to a work schedule.
What are the key questions a good progress report should answer for the reader? What do they need to know?
Things like, how much is done? What are we working on right now? What's still left to do? When and how will that get finished? Were there any problems or changes? And how are they handled? And overall, how's the project looking compared to the plan?
And the format can be flexible.
Yeah, it could be a quick email or memo for smaller things, or a formal letter, or a more structured report for bigger projects. Depends on the context and audience.
Let's break down the typical parts you'd find in a standard progress report structure.
Okay. Usually starts with an introduction, states the report's purpose clearly, reporting progress on Project Z from date X to date Y.
Sets the scene.
Yeah. Might briefly recap the project's aims, mention past milestones or how previous issues were solved. If the scope changed, mention it here.
Then you get into the work completed.
This details what's been finished since the last update. You can organize it by date or by task. Specificity is good here.
How so?
Explain how tasks were done. Did the team follow the plan? Who did what? The sources give examples like downloaded 20 papers from specific databases on specific dates, or administered the questionnaire to 50 people at location X on date Y. Details build credibility.
After completed, you cover what's happening now.
That's work in progress. Just describe the tasks currently underway and where they stand.
And looking forward.
Work remaining. List the tasks planned for the next period, ideally with target dates. You'd also predict when the rest will be done overall, or at least by the next report.
What if there were bumps in the road? That's the adjustments problems section.
Exactly. Discuss any challenges, explain their impact on progress, and critically describe how they were fixed or what adjustments were made to the plan as a result. Shows you're on top of things.
And it all wraps up with a conclusion.
Right. Summarizes the key points for the previous sections. You evaluate the progress. Are you satisfied? To what extent? Briefly restate accomplishments.
And express confidence or concerns.
Yeah, express confidence about the overall success or raise concerns if needed, showing willingness to make further adjustments.
The sources also mentioned a simpler structure, the ABC format.
Ah, yes, a more concise version. A is for abstract. A quick summary of the main work and key progress.
B for body.
That's the main description. Work completed by task or time. Maybe mention dead ends that took up time, explain any delays, describe work remaining, reference attachments.
And C for conclusion.
A brief restatement of the work, express confidence or concern about the deadline, and indicate you're open to adjustments. Simple structure.
Now, our sources made an interesting link between progress reports and short survey reports. How does that fit?
Well, a short survey report is basically just presenting the findings from a survey you conducted.
Okay.
Think of its purpose like the results section in a research paper. Or, in the context of a progress report, if part of your work completed involved running a survey, this is how you'd present that data.
So you could include it within the progress report.
You could summarize the key findings in the work completed section, maybe with a full survey report attached. Or, depending on the project, it might be a standalone short report. It's about clearly presenting those specific findings.
Now, here's where it gets really interesting. You mentioned that strategic, persuasive angle of progress reports.
Yes, because upper management uses these reports for important decisions.
Like what?
Assessing if costs are on track, gauging the likelihood of success, seeing if the team needs help or more resources, making informed choices about the project's future.
So the way you structure it matters.
Absolutely. By clearly showing progress, addressing problems proactively, you're not just updating, you're building their confidence in the project and the team. It's inherently persuasive in that sense.
Okay, moving from managing ongoing projects to our daily grind, let's talk email writing. Professional communication in, well, pixels.
It seems so basic, doesn't it? But getting professional email right is so important.
First, big distinction, personal versus professional.
Huge difference. Personal emails to friends, family informal, casual language, maybe emojis, slang.
Professional emails are totally different.
Much more formal. To colleagues, your boss, clients, vendors, the language is concise, formal. It's a business communication tool.
What are the fundamental building blocks of a good professional email?
5 core parts, really, just like a traditional letter. Subject line, salutation greeting, the main content or body, a closing line, and your signature.
The subject line, that's the first thing people see.
It sets the context immediately. Needs to be precise, concise, relevant. The sources had good examples. Avoid vague stuff like about CV.
Better to use.
Clear, helpful subjects like request for personal statement evaluation, meeting on Monday, follow-up presentation. The recipient should know the topic before they even open it.
And always start with a salutation or greeting.
Always. Professional options like good morning, afternoon, evening, dear, hello, maybe hi, depending on how well you know them.
But avoid.
Casual stuff like hey or what's up. And the formality dictates if you use first name, title plus last name, department name, etc.
The main paragraph, the body, that's the core message.
Right. These clear organization.
Yeah.
Use proper paragraphs. Bullet points are great for lists or steps. Make sure all the necessary details are in there.
Is there a suggested structure for the body?
A good pattern is state the purpose up front. I'm writing to inform inquiry request. Provide the necessary details. Include a clear call to action if you need them to do something. And maybe end with a polite closing statement.
How about the closing line?
Usually a single line, polite tone. Can reiterate the call to action or just offer a final compliment. Standard ones. Best wishes, regards, kind regards, sincerely, thank you.
And the signature. Can't forget that.
Essential. Your name, your title designation, and contact details. Everything they need to know who you are and how to follow up.
Our sources were pretty clear on things to absolutely avoid, too.
Yes, some big no-nos, all cap PS.
Feels like shouting, right?
Totally unprofessional.
Yeah.
Also, avoid abbreviations and text talk, LOL, AAX, G8.
Are there any acceptable abbreviations?
A few common business ones are usually okay. ASMP, POC, RSVP, maybe long B for close of business. But generally, spell things out.
Emojis.
The source is blunt. The professional setting in which emojis are appropriate does not exist, so probably best to avoid them.
Multiple punctuation marks, too.
Yeah, avoid strings of question marks or exclamation points. Looks unprofessional.
Any other subtle points?
Make sure your display photo, if you have one, is professional. Use your full official name. Be really mindful of CC and especially BCC, who needs to know versus who just needs awareness. And should recipients see who else got it?
So know your audience.
Always. Be acutely aware of your audience, their context, their needs.
So the big picture for professional email.
It's a structured communication method for business. It's not just typing. It's using a clear format, formal language, respecting the recipient's time, and having a clear purpose. Mastering it really impacts your professional image.
Okay, we've hit specific types like feasibility and progress reports and daily comms with email. Let's zoom out now and look at the common structures that run through many formal reports, especially research and proposals. Understanding these shared parts helps navigate almost anything, right?
It really does. The content varies wildly, but the underlying architecture is often surprisingly similar. The sources on project reports and introductory sections make this pretty clear.
Starting right at the beginning, the introductory sections. Title or cover page.
It's the front door. A good title is focused, maybe split into two parts with a colon if needed, category, specific approach. Using prepositions helps clarity. The roles of dietary nitrate is way better than just dietary nitrate rules.
And it needs the basics.
Report title, author, organization, date. Clear identification.
Then often an acknowledgement section.
Yeah, that's a nice touch. A chance to thank people who helped advisors, funders, colleagues, family, even pets, as the source amusingly notes.
Can be a bit more informal there?
Slightly, yeah. Using I or we is okay, but still keep it professional and concise.
What about a letter of transmittal? Is that always needed?
Not always. It's used when you're formally submitting the report and need to give specific context.
Like explaining?
Why the report was done, why it should be read, maybe if the project went differently than planned, or highlighting key points. Standard letter format. Date, recipient, greeting, body summarizing context, short closing.
We talked about the executive summary for feasibility reports. It's common across many report types.
Absolutely vital. It's that snapshot of the entire report, background, purpose, approach, findings, conclusions, recommendations.
And often the only part some people read.
For senior leaders, often yes. So it has to be comprehensive yet concise. It summarizes the report's content, not just an intro. Covers everything from the problem to the solution, and implications, cost, risk, implementation.
And for finding your way around.
Table of contents, list of figures, list of tables, essential navigation tools. Let readers jump right to the section or data they need.
Okay, moving into the heart of the report, the main body or content sections. Let's start with the introduction chapter.
Right, this chapter transitions the reader from the general area to your specific work. Usually starts with motivation. Why is this important?
It sets the context.
Then background information. For research or proposals, often a review of previous research leading into the lit review chapter.
And it zeroes in on the specific issue.
Yes, identifying a problem or need is core here. Establishing that gap or practical problem your work addresses usually ends with a clear statement of that problem.
For proposals or project reports, this might also include the vision, objectives, scope.
Correct. Those reports need to clearly state the project vision, the business opportunity, define SMART objectives, specific, measurables, etc. Detail the scope, goals, deliverables, boundaries, responsibilities, constraints, and describe the stakeholders.
The literature review chapter is often a big one, especially in research.
It is. Shows you know the existing work in your field. And the sources stress it's not just reporting what others did, but critically evaluating it.
What does that critical evaluation involve?
You introduce the area, its significance, discuss the state of the art, key studies, their methods, findings. Then, crucially, you discuss the limitations or gaps in that existing work.
So you point out what's missing.
While acknowledging their contributions, yes. You show where they fall short or what questions are still open.
And this justifies your own work.
Exactly. Highlighting limitations creates the need for your research or solution. You might restate your objectives, showing how they fill that gap. Mention specific tools you'll use.
After the background, you explain what you did the method section.
Describes how the research was done or the solution developed. Could include specifications like SRS or SDS for software. Details the implementation. Describes the tests you'll run to evaluate it.
And why you chose those methods.
Vital to provide the reasoning for your choices, yes.
Then the results and evaluation section. This is where you present what you found.
Yes. A clear summary of the results from your tests or analyses. Show the outcomes. Describe how well you met your goals.
And this connects back to that idea of a short survey report.
Precisely. If your method involved a survey, this is where you'd present those findings. It fits right in here, just like presenting test results or any other data you gathered during the project evaluation.
And finally, wrapping it all up, conclusion and recommendations.
The conclusion summarizes the whole report, key findings, analysis except the literature review. It includes your critical appraisal of your own results.
Strengths and weaknesses.
Yep. How did it turn out? How does it stack up against others' work?
And the recommendations look ahead.
Exactly. Suggestions based on your findings. Maybe for stakeholders, use this solution. Maybe for other researchers, here's how to extend this.
Discuss limitations too.
Yes, limitations of your own work and ideas for improvements. The sources had examples like improving a robot toy or changing a machine design.
So connecting all these dots, feasibility, progress, research, proposals, there's a common thread, a shared logic and structure underneath.
Absolutely. Despite different purposes, most formal reports follow a pattern. Set the stage, intro, provide context, background lit review, explain the work, method, show the findings, results, and summarize, suggest next steps, conclusion recommendations.
Understanding that pattern makes tackling any report easier.
Much, much easier, both reading them and writing them.
So we've taken quite a deep dive today into this whole world of professional writing and reports. We've looked at feasibility reports, progress reports, professional emails, and that shared anatomy underpinning things like research papers and proposals.
We've really seen how structure, knowing your audience, and clear factual content are just fundamental for communicating effectively at work.
It's about mastering the frameworks, isn't it? The ways complex information gets shared efficiently and purposefully.
That's a great way to put it.
Considering how much information we all consume and produce every day, maybe the real superpower isn't just knowing the facts.
But understand the frame they're presented in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And using that knowledge to get your own ideas across with real precision and impact.
Indeed. Knowing the blueprint empowers you, whether you're reading these documents or writing them.
Makes you think, what kind of document are you going to look at differently now, armed with this deeper understanding?